So this place has some very dark histories for being one of the central points of slave trade worldwide. Let's go inside, re-echo the stories, and keep them alive. Have you ever wondered why the Europeans came to Africa in the first place? Did they get an invite from anybody? Why did they come? Let's find out.
The Portuguese first came here in 1471 with two intentions: for commerce and religion. So when they were coming, they came along with European goods like guns, gunpowder, spirituous liquor, mirror, in exchange for our gold, ivory, later spices. Their system of trade at that particular time was the barter system, exchanging goods for goods. And the major commodity that the Portuguese were much interested was gold.
So this castle is called the Elmina Castle because it is located in a town called Elmina. But before the Europeans came, this town had a name. And the name changed to present-day Elmina after the Europeans arrived. Why did the name change? And what was the original name of this particular town before it was changed to Elmina?
The rate at which our people here were giving out their gold gave them the impression that the land here could be in abundance of it. So they named this place Elmina. In the Portuguese language, it means the mine. Our people at that time couldn't pronounce it properly, and it was corrupted into today's word Elmina, and that invariably became the name of the town. Edina is also a Portuguese word, aldea. In the Portuguese language, it means the village. So our people couldn't pronounce it, and it became Edina. So Edina and Elmina are wrongly pronounced Portuguese words. But we had a name before they came. This place was called Ano Mansa, and Ano Mansa simply means inexhaustible water. Water keeps flowing.
The very first time a land title was transferred from an African chief to an European happened here in Elmina. And this is how it went about.
1482, that is 11 years later after they had arrived, more zeal for gold motivated one of the Portuguese captains called Don Diego de Azambuja. He came along with 600 soldiers with building materials to see the then chief of Elmina called Kwame negotiated with him, and he gave the Portuguese this portion of the land. And it is important to note that that was the first time a title to a land was transferred from an African chief to an European. And before, this place was full of rocks. So the Portuguese had to get the level ground before putting up this building. And the rocks that the building is standing on it today is sedimentary rocks. And it's said to be 100 meters beneath the earth. And upon completion, they named it after one of their saint patron in Portugal called Saint George's. So this is Saint George's Castle, or Elmina Castle. The castle standing today is 542 years. 542 years.
What was the reason given to the chiefs for buying the land here in Elmina? Did they declare their intent of coming to engage in slave trade? If yes, what did the chiefs do? If no, what lie did they tell the chiefs that allowed them to sell the land to them in the first place?
They wanted us to believe that this was only built to protect their trade and their traders, to have rooms for their missionaries. And before the early 16th centuries, all the rooms on the ground floor in the castle were their warehouses. But when the attention shifted from gold and others to human trade, the same warehouses were used as dungeons where the Africans were kept. And in total, the castle is talking of a minimum of 1,000 Africans at the time, 400 women, 600 men.
So how did the whole slave trade activity start, or how did it begin? You think one day one white guy woke up, walk to the blacks and tell them, I want to trade in human beings. It must have definitely started from somewhere or started with someone.
The Portuguese here in Elmina did not get up one day and said to themselves that they want to go into slavery. At least something brought about it, or something might have happened somewhere. 1441 was the first time ever the Portuguese started taking Africans to Portugal. And the one who did the capturing was called Antem Goncalves, but in some books he is called Antonio Gonzalez. And he was one of the explorers of Prince Henry of Portugal. He came to a place in Senegambia called Real de Oro, which means River of Gold. When he was going back to Portugal, he captured 10 Africans, others are saying 12. When they got there, the prince saw them and he was very, very happy for two reasons. One, he wanted the most intelligent ones among them to be trained to become missionaries to hasten the spread of Christianity. To some to serve as interpreters when they come back to Africa.
Which specific countries were the slaves transported when they left the shores of Ghana?
Slaves were not coming from Ghana alone. To this Burkina Faso, Togo, but they had their marketing centers. Okay. For instance, the Portuguese had a marketing center in Brazil. Okay. The Dutch had theirs in Guyana and Suriname. Yeah, and the English had theirs in the Caribbean and America.
This is a little bit interesting. Did you know that there were 2 cells inside the castle? And one cell was for the blacks, the African slaves were kept in one cell, and the other cell were for the Europeans themselves.
You walk straight to this very first cell for me, but don't forget I will lock you up. Yeah, let's enter, that's why you are here. And the cell that you are in was not for the Africans. It was for the European soldiers, to be precise. The Dutch soldiers who got themselves drunk and misbehaved, or who went out to that seeking permission from the authorities. They sent them in there for some hours and freight, and because it was for them, it was well ventilated. They considered that very, very good because no African was put in there. You all come out and compare the next cell that has a skull and a crossbone signifying death, which you don't go in there and come out alive. But because I'm here, I'm a very kind guide, very kind guide. You are sure they're coming back alive, so you come on. That was a condemned cell for the Africans who were fighting with the Europeans for them to be released. And today we may call them the freedom fighters. They send them in there, no food, no water. The minimum is 3 days and you are gone. This wall, the other one over there, were constructed by the Dutch. And in the early part of 1990s, during one of the Pan-African Historical Theatre Festival, Panafest, and the theme for celebrating the Panafest was the re-emergence of African civilization, a united African family in the diaspora. And at that time, there was a ceremony held here in Ghana called Nkrumah, which simply means that when they were going, they never had a chance of saying goodbye. After that ceremony, led by the president of the National House of Chiefs, the late Nana Odro Nkrumah II, went to some chiefs of Africa, to the United States of America, precisely New York, had discussions with Africans over there. And when they came back, this plaque here came up. So it's serving as a mission statement of the tour of the castle. Up there are watchtowers. The Dutch built it. Their soldiers were put there just to watch on the sea. When the British took over, they converted it into prisons. That was where one of the famous Ashanti king by name Nana Akwesi Agyemang Prempeh I was imprisoned. And Prempeh, he became king in 1888. At the age of 16 years, 16, and he made a treaty signed by his predecessors to pay 50,000 ounces of gold to the British as war indemnity fund. He paid half and paid the rest in installments. The British saw it as a breach of contract, so they told him to organize a Deba in Kumasi so that you could go there and settle their differences peacefully. But unknown to Prempeh, when the British were leaving this castle, they went with their soldiers, captured Prempeh, the wife, the mother, and some of the royal family members. Prempeh and the wife were imprisoned up there for 4 years, sent to Freetown, Sierra Leone for 1 year, finally exiled to Seychelles Island for 23 more years. He came back in 1924, died in 1931 at the age of 59. And also in 1900, there was this British governor called Sir Frederick Hodgson. He wanted nothing but the golden stool of the Ashantis. The golden stool is said to be conjured from the skies, but one of the local priests called Okofanoche. The golden stool is said to bring the Ashantis together. When the governor was pressing for the release of the original golden stool, the Ashantis prepared fake golden stool, gave it to the governor. The governor took it to Britain thinking it was the original. When he was in Britain, he saw, so you know, it started then, It started then, not now. All right. So the governor took it to Britain thinking it was the original. When he was in Britain, he saw that wasn't the original. So he came back for the original golden stool, and that brought up a queen mother called the Asantewaa who said no. She went from house to house telling the able men and women the importance of the golden stool to the Ashanti kingdom. She mobilized them. They went into war with the British, but unfortunately for her, she was also captured. She was imprisoned up there for a while, finally exiled to Seychelles Island. She died there. Her remains were brought back to Ghana in the year 2000, and a big funeral was held for her. And one thing remarkable is that the woman started the war at the age of 60 years, 60, and the purpose for the war was achieved because the British couldn't take away the original golden stool from us. And just this morning, I was being told that Ghanaian women are strong as the Queen Mother. Is that true? Yeah. Then the men should be very, very, very careful.
Yeah. Now let's go have a look at the door of no return. So this was the passage point through which our ancestors were taken into exile, to be enslaved in foreign countries.
Please, when you reach the first door, you watch your head, you take a step down. The next door, you bow down very low. You take at least 5 steps before you raise your head. You can use a flashlight on your phone. No issues.
You can tell how dark and unfriendly this cell is.
Can I ask a question? How many people will be in this room to be transported at a time?
Well, they were only made to pass it. For instance, by the time that the ships came, 700 might have survived. And on deck, by the time they go to the final destination, 500. So let's say 500.
So people will die here.
They died.
So very weak. Boss, I beg of you, 500 people will be in this room.
No. If we're following me, I said we had 1,000 at the time. 400 women, 600 men. They were only made to pass here when the ships were ready. Nobody slept in here.
Nobody slept here.
But we'll go to the dungeons, don't worry. So this is the door of no return. We came in freely, but they were in chains. 10 to 15. You can go the door from this point to the other. But when the slave trade started, they narrowed it so that it contained one person at a time. And in the olden days, the sea was touching the castle, but it has receded. So when the ships came, a smaller boat was brought here to convey them to the big ships before they were taken away. And they had ladder that they descended to the smaller ones before they were taken to the bigger ones. Taken to Brazil, Guyana, Suriname, Liverpool, the Caribbean, and America.
Wondering how fat people among the slaves were able to go through this slim door called the door of no return.
Seeing the nature of the door shouldn't let you think that tall and fat Africans were not brought here. They were. But due to the treatment that they were subjected to in the dungeons, one could be lean or slim. And these wreaths were brought here to pay tribute to those who died here.
Please take this moment to like our video, share so other people can see. This gesture from you doesn't only help us spread such important content to you and other people. It also helps fuel our growth on this platform, as such interactions is what we need to grow as a channel. If you're feeling extra generous, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't done that already, and please don't forget to hit on the bell icon to be notified when we upload our next video. Now back to our main video. Some of the women will be raped while they are here in the dungeon, awaiting the arrival of the ship to be transported to their final destination.
Up on the balcony he stood, ordered, and the doors were opened for the women to assemble in the courtyard. He looked through and made his choice. The chosen one might have been the dungeons from 1 to 2 months without cleaning her teeth nor bathing. Should I even menstruated, yet the governor had picked, so it became the responsibilities of the soldiers to fetch water for her to bath. After the bathing, she was given something small to eat, and she was dressed and sent to the governor's quarters through the private access door. Please, let's have a look.
Some of the women would resist attempts of being raped, and these women were punished severely.
Cannonball, 8 of such were here. They used to punish the women who refused or resisted rape. They were brought from the dungeons, chained to the ankle, and made to stand, be it rain or shine from morning till evening, no food, no water. They did that just to put fears into others, so that any time a soldier gets in there, he could easily get one to be raped. On the 3rd of July 2015, we had a program here, the return of the captives. So people from different countries came and voluntarily slept in there from 6 p.m. to 9 a.m. the following day, and this was what they used during that period, like a reenactment for them to go feel how it was. Let's walk through the dungeons, please. Oh, please come. So the private access door to the governor's quarters up, and we shall see the governor's quarters when we get to the 3rd floor. After the humiliation, the woman was not made to stay there, because that wasn't a permanent place. She was then sent back to the dungeons, and in instances, some became mistresses and stayed longer up there. When the ships came, those found pregnant were subsequently freed or liberated. But due to the long way from the hinterland, some couldn't trace their way back. And this partly explains why along the coast of our country, we have mulattoes, the light color skin. Some went to the village, got married to the local women over there, built individual houses known as stone houses, stayed with them, have children, and gave their names to their children. And before and today in Ghana, we have people bearing European names. You know it. McLean, McCarthy, William, Brown, Anderson.
Note that these slaves weren't entirely from Ghana, but then they came from the entire of Africa. And the reason why they came to Ghana was because this is where the whites or the Europeans built their castle. So this was like a converging point for them to be kept here, awaiting the arrival of the ship, and to be transported to their final destinations.
Females dungeon. 150 of the women were sleeping on the floor. As hard as it is, there were no means of our convenience in here. Empty containers were placed at the various corners for them to do that. But they were not coming from Ghana alone to this Burkina Faso, Togo, Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, Niger, Nigeria, Cameroon, and the rest. They were all brought in here. It took them 1 to 2 months before they arrived, because in the olden days, there were no cars. So they had to walk barefooted from their various countries to this place. And some were even left at the expense of wild animals in the forest. And when they got here, they were very weak. And as women do have their menstruation, practically they did everything on the floor. That is why you cannot underestimate the stench and the heat over here. And as a result, most of them died. And when they died, they were not buried. They were removed and thrown into the ocean for the fish to feed on. They gave them something small to eat just to keep them alive. Some ate, some refused to eat. They preferred to die. And they never had a chance of cleaning their teeth nor bathing. And all this before it was closed. The hole over there led to another room called the magazine, where they kept their ammunition. When there's a leakage, the chemicals came straight to this room and was in a already bad situation. Let's come on, please.
Today's video has been quite emotional, but I feel it's important to re-echo and relive such precious moments of our forefathers to our present generation. And I believe you've learned something from today's video. If you appreciate our efforts, please like our video down below, share so other people can see, and as always, stay positive, and I'll see you in the next one.